Yeah, we were losing some good players, and this is a little bit part of where we are as an organization and where we are as a team. But I have confidence in our guys that we're going to replace them, and we'll feel really good about the young players that we have coming through our system, as well as the guys that we already have here. So tough to lose Iggy and Nooney because they were a huge part of our offense and a huge part of our club. But it's a next man up mentality, and we're going to have our young players, give them an opportunity to play, and I think that we have some guys that are ready for the challenge.
Next up, John Mioli of the Baltimore Sun. Go ahead, John.
Brandon, you had one season where you'd come in late in the offseason and kind of got a slow start on things, and the second season was shortened, and obviously everything that happened this year. This is going to be the third year of this project you're starting. What are you going to need to see at the major league level to feel like as much progress is being made as you want?
Well, I thought we made a lot of progress last year. Even though it was a shortened season and we played, or the games played was cut dramatically. I did feel like we made big strides as an organization, big strides as a major league club in a lot of areas. We got some of our young players to the big leagues, especially that last half of the 60-game season. You started seeing some guys that are coming through our system. That's exciting. To get some youth or guys that we like a lot with the Mountcastles, Dean Kramers, Aikens, et cetera, as well as, we saw guys really continue to improve from the year before. Tony Santander, a lot of our guys in our bullpen. So I think that we just got to continue to keep getting better. This next year is more of that, of giving more guys opportunity, continue to get our young guys, our young players better, and really creating a core group of players to compete in the American League East going forward.
Next up, Dan Connolly of The Athletic. Go ahead, Dan.
Hey, Brandon, to kind of follow up on Rock's question, you talk about trying to replace those three guys, Nunez, Alberto, and Iglesias. What's going to be more difficult, replacing them on the field or replacing them in the clubhouse? And do you have in mind who you think can fill both of those voids?
Well, I think that it's a little bit of both what you said, on the field and in the clubhouse. What Iggy brought last year from a veteran leadership standpoint, he had a great season offensively. We'd love to see him play more defensively. Just his leg wasn't going to allow him to do that. But the mentorship that he brought to our young players in our clubhouse was huge. Players really liked him. He was from where he came from. When I saw him back in 2009 to the adult and the man he is now is special and a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun for me to watch. Alberto, same way. The infectious energy that he had, the way he plays the game, the way he comes to play every day. It was a pleasure to manage him the last couple of years. And then Nooney really with what he brought offensively, the power threat at the plate every single at bat and the ability to drive the ball out of the ballpark, to take good at bats against good pitching that we face. Those are going to be big losses. But I feel confident in our front office and how they're constructing our roster. I feel good about the young players that are going to get more at bats because of losing some of these guys. I think we're moving forward with a younger club that we're excited about the talent level that we have guys coming through our system with.
Next up, Joe Tresla of MLB.com. Go ahead, Joe.
Hey, Brandon. How's it going? Now that 2020 is coming to a close, what do you think you learned about managing this year, and what do you think you learned about leadership, especially when it comes to how some of your players responded to off-the-field issues?
Yeah, well, I was really proud of our club. I was proud of our whole organization, the way we handled everything once spring training 1.0 was stopped, and how we handled things throughout those next couple months, the spring training 2.0. I felt the leadership in our organization handled it incredibly well and did a great job of making us all feel like our safety, the players, the coaches, everybody in the building, safety was the number one priority. And I think our players really took to that. yeah, there was a lot of things that we dealt with that we normally don't have to in a normal season. And what I learned, I learned that there was going to be something different every day, probably things that we've never had to deal with before. And you do the best you can. You try to lead a group of men the best you can. You rely with talking to other managers, coaches, etc., on things that you're dealing with and things that the messages that you want to send to your club. But I just thought it was a really productive year, even though it was a strange year, a real productive year, a lot of aspects, and really proud of how our players handled it.
Next up, Rich Dubroff of BaltimoreBaseball.com. Go ahead, Rich.
Brandon, going into spring training, do you feel like Kramer and Aiken have are pretty much sure things to start the season with the club? And overall, how many starting pitcher candidates do you want to have as you start spring training?
Yeah, I thought they put themselves in position the way they threw the ball their last 4 or 5 starts in the big leagues. I thought they really threw the ball outstanding against playoff clubs. The teams that we were facing, really all 60 games, but especially that last month were teams that were putting their best foot forward to give themselves the best position to be in the playoffs and get a good seed, and to go against the lineups that Kramer and Aiken faced on a nightly basis was really, really impressive with how they handled that. So yeah, absolutely, they gave themselves every opportunity to win a starting job next year. As for the number, I think it's the same answer almost every year, is that the more starters, the better in spring training. We've been pretty fortunate from an injury standpoint here the last couple of years, but you just never know what's going to happen. So yeah, 8, 9 starters would be fantastic, and we'll get it rolling from there.
Next up, Nathan Ruiz of the Baltimore Sun. Go ahead, Nathan.
Hey, Brandon, have you been in touch much with Trey Mancini? How's he doing, and what are your expectations for him come spring? Yeah,
I check in with Trey periodically. I talked to him a couple of weeks ago. It was the last time I talked to him. He was just coming out. He just got done working out. He's doing great. Feels great. Looks great. I've got video on him from hitting in the facility that he works out in, and he looks exactly the same. So excited to have Trey be a part of a full spring training in February, and can't wait to see him. But all signs are great, and he looks fantastic.
Next up, Steve Molesky of MASN Sports. Go ahead, Steve.
Hey, Brandon, what's the challenge for Brian Mountcastle to continue to produce at a high level? Adjustments and changes that pitchers would make against him, has some of that already happened, or is he going to face a lot more in 2021?
Well, I think it's the challenge of being a young player, is that the league doesn't know you extremely well when you first get here, and they make adjustments to you, and then it's your job to make adjustments back if you want to continue to be an impact player and be an everyday player in this league. It's not an easy thing to do. That's what I was so impressed with Santander, to be honest with you, was this last year was, coming off the year he had in 19, he made some adjustments offensively and improved even more until he came down with the oblique there with about 20 games to go. Ryan's going to have to do the same thing. There's a book on Ryan now. There's a lot of at-bats that he got in the last 30 games. But he's so athletic, and he's got a really good great feel to hit. I'm confident that he's going to make those adjustments, and really, really exciting to watch him play those last 30 games, and with being young, athletic, learning different positions, not easy to do. So what he did was extremely impressive.
Next up, Stan Charles of PressBoxOnline.com. Go ahead, Stan.
Hey, Brandon. Hope you and your family are safe. I have a question about your status. When you look at what happened to Richie Renteria in Chicago, part of rebuilding is taking a lot of hits as the manager. Are you confident that you're the guy that's going to be the guy when this team really is ready to win?
Well, I have confidence in myself. Yeah, I think I'm in this for the long haul. I knew that when I took the job that it was going to be some bumpy roads, especially early, because I've been through a rebuilding process before. I understand it doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen in a couple of years. It takes a while. It takes a while to draft well. It takes a while to get guys through the system. So I was very, very aware when I took the job what the situation was going to be like. But yeah, I mean, I feel like I felt like I was ready to manage in the big leagues in 2019. I feel even more prepared now. I think you learn every single day. You try to get better. I'm just trying to get better. I think you guys know me, that it's pretty low ego. I want to improve. Want to see this through, and I think it's exciting what we have here going forward.
Next up, Andy McCullough of The Athletic. Go ahead, Andy.
Hey, Brandon, I had something of like a philosophical question for you. During the World Series, there was a decent amount of like backlash when Kevin Cash took out Blake Snell, and people talking about analytics and all that stuff. And I'm kind of wondering, like, as you've been doing this job for a couple years, like, how do you find yourself striking the balance between the eye test versus what information you have to make decisions?
Well, I think there's a balance, and that's kind of the cliche word right now, but I think that it is that in Cash's situation, that's something that he won 40 games out of 60 by following that formula, and the Tampa Bay Rays got to that position by really trusting their bullpen. He did it against us a couple times. Takes Snell out a little bit early, and the bullpen comes in and puts up 0. So I've seen it too many times against us to know that it's hard to argue against, but I also understand the argument the other way. You like to see premier starters go as long as they can, and I totally understand that. So, I felt bad for Kevin a little bit after that, in that, the formula, like I said, that he has been so successful with, just didn't happen, and that's baseball. There's always going to be second guessing. It's always going to be easier to say, I wish I would have done this, or why did he do that? That's what the beauty of this game is that there's so many different ways to win a game. And I just think you do the best you can with taking as much information as possible, and understanding that's important, and understanding your eyes are important also. And these are human beings that have feelings, that have emotions. And you wrap all that around and try to make a good decision.
Thank you.
Next up, Stephanie Apstein of Sports Illustrated. Go ahead, Stephanie.
Hey, Brandon. The baseball is so far the league that has done the non-bubble plan best. And I was wondering what you learned as the season went on, because you guys actually improved as the season went on. Baseball in general, handling this. What did you learn as the season went on, and what kind of advice would you give to another league, say the NBA, who's trying to do this coming up?
Well, I give our league a lot of credit. I felt like we had some bumps early with a couple teams that had some issues, and I think that the leadership from the top down in our league, leadership and especially on our club, with how strict we were following our protocols and relaying to the players how important it was. We had great team discussions. We really just wanted to see this through and get to postseason and try to keep everybody as safe as possible. And I thought our league just did an unbelievable job of relaying that message. And our players completely bought in to try to stay as safe as possible and not break protocol. So I started from the top down. Continuing to travel, continuing to stay in hotels, and our guys just did a great job of not going out, of social distancing, of washing our hands. We social distanced in the dugout as well as we possibly could. We wore masks in the clubhouse. We wore masks as much as possible. So that would be my advice is to just follow the protocols as well as you possibly can and keep your distance. And, hopefully good things happen like it did in our league.
Next up, Mark Topkin of the Tampa Bay Times. Go ahead, Mark.
Hey, Brandon, Andy kind of touched on this with the Cash decision, and I'm not going to ask you to give your thought on it per se, but is it ultimately just come down as the manager to, as you said, balance? You've got the statistical information, you've got what you're seeing, but I mean, you may consult with your pitching coach, your bench coach, but ultimately it's just your call?
Yeah, there's conversations that you have throughout the game. There's conversations that you have prior to the game where you try to map things out. You try to talk about the different scenarios and game plan, and you've worked with your analytic team on the right information, the information that you need for the game, as well as the information they want to give you. And then you just try to make the best decision you can. You know, with Kevin's situation, that had worked. And that's something that he has gone through. I remember he pulled Blake early in a doubleheader day in September against us, and they ended up winning the game by 1 run. It turned out to be the right decision. They won the baseball game. So and he was just following a formula that has been very successful, and unfortunately it just didn't work out.
Next up, Dave Ginsburg of the Associated Press. Go ahead, Dave.
Hello, Brandon. You talked about seeing Mancini in February. My question is what's your confident level of spring training actually coming off on time, and you'll be able to go to Sarasota as opposed to maybe Camden Yards?
Well, I'm anticipating us starting in February, and they'll let me know if it's not. I'm anticipating the season starting on time. I'm anticipating the season being 162 games. I want to believe that we're going to start in February, and I think the next month or two is going to tell all of us, whether that's going to happen or not. But I'm confident that I'm going to prepare like we're starting a normal season. I think that's important to tell your players, coaches, etc. Listen, we're in it for 162 this year, and hopefully that happens.
Follow-up question from Stan Charles. Go ahead, Stan.
Brandon, you referenced yourself as egoless. I want to ask you a question about Cedric Mullins. What's the difference between being egoless and having enough confidence in yourself? Because what he did was pretty amazing last season, I thought, changing his game.
Some people might argue that, Stan, but I'm going to stay with what I said about myself now. Cedric came a long way this last year, and that was what it was just a lot of confidence. He just started playing with confidence. He started playing with a chip on his shoulder a little bit. It was not the Cedric that I saw the year before, as well as spring training. I started seeing signs of Cedric really making some improvements. I like some swing adjustments that he made in spring training. But then when he got an opportunity to play during the season, he waited his turn, continued to work hard, got his chance, and he took advantage of the opportunity by just really playing the game aggressive. And I love the bunt game that he has. He can drop a bunt down for a single almost any single time. That gives you confidence also. But the ability to lay a bunt down for a single and then go deep is rare. And he has that, along with Gold Glove caliber defense in center field. A real special ability to see the baseball off the bat and get unbelievable jumps night in, night out. So I thought he made huge strides this last year. He was a shining moment for us in our organization, of a guy that's come through, took a step back, but then is now. So that was awesome to see.
Follow-up from John Mioli. Go ahead, John.
Brandon, we spoke to Chris Davis last week about his offseason and some of the things he was going through last year. Sorry for the two-parter. First of all, what was your impression of his overall health as the season was going on? Because he said that he didn't feel well in his whole left leg area pretty much from the moment he showed up. And secondly, where do you see his role on this team going forward?
Well, starting with spring training 1.0, I thought he had a great spring. He was off to a great start. He was in a great place mentally, physically, taking really good at bats, showing great leadership on the field. was having a really good spring training, and unfortunately, the 2-month layoff affected a lot of people around the league, and that it's hard to, especially for a veteran player, hard to ramp up your workout and how to do that and when to do that. And unfortunately, I knew pretty early when we got back to Baltimore that his leg was bothering him a little bit, and we were going to try to manage that because I love the signs that I was seeing in the first spring training, and was hoping that those at bats would then carry over into when the season started. And unfortunately, got off to a little bit of a slow start. His leg was bothering him, and so I just it was the right thing to do was to let it rest and to rehab it. I think Chris has had a few tough years. Still a part of the club. He's going to come in like everybody else and try to win, try to get playing time, and try to get as many bats as possible. I'm going to give him opportunity. I'm going to give him a ton of at bats in spring training, and try to get him right, like we've done the last couple of years. But I think we have younger players that are getting here also, other guys that play his position, and he's going to have to perform to get at bats in the season.
All right. Do we have any final questions for Brandon? One final question from Stan. Go ahead, Stan.
Brandon, just a quickie. Could you talk a little bit about what allows Cesar Valdez to be as successful as he was? And do you think that that's possible to continue for a whole season?
Well, what made him successful? Just an incredible ability to change speeds, locate all pitches to the bottom and below the strike zone. He only had one hiccup in the entire last few weeks he was with us. But it was fun to watch a pitcher pitch, and a guy to be able to locate any pitch that he wants. And if he does that, he's going to have success. I know that he's a great story, and that he's dealt with a lot, but been everywhere in this game, and for him to come out and really be appreciative of a major league opportunity. He came in wanting to get outs, and the next thing you know, he's throwing pitching the ninth inning for us, and getting out. So I'm assuming that Cesar's going to come in exactly like he left us in Buffalo in September, and I think he's just got a unique ability to keep the baseball off of the barrel and to be able to change speeds.